Have you ever stood before a mirror, staring into your own eyes, and felt that faint whisper rise from somewhere deep inside? There's more to me than this. Perhaps it comes late at night, when the noise of the world fades and you're left alone with your thoughts. Or maybe it surfaces in moments of quiet disappointment, when you realize that despite all your effort, something essential still feels missing. That whisper is not your imagination. It is the voice of your authentic self, the powerful, limitless being you were meant to become. Part 1. The envelope within. Long before you took your first breath, before you opened your eyes to the light of this world, something extraordinary happened. The Creator placed within your heart a sealed envelope. Inside that envelope lies a divine blueprint, the design of your true self. It contains the purpose, gifts, and greatness that are uniquely yours. But most people walk through life without ever opening it. They move from day to day, chasing approval, money, or comfort, unaware that the treasure they seek is already within them. Napoleon Hill once said, "The starting point of all achievement is desire." And that desire, that burning feeling that there is more to your life than you are currently living, is the signal that it's time to open your envelope. It is the first step in discovering who you were truly meant to be. You are not a random accident of time and circumstance. You are not defined by the mistakes you made, nor by the opinions others hold of you. You are a deliberate creation, designed for a specific purpose only you can fulfill. Within you lies a magnificent power, greater than any obstacle you've faced, more powerful than any limitation you've believed. For too long, many of us have forgotten this truth. We've been taught to fit into molds that don't suit us, to believe we are small when in reality we are limitless. Society tells us what success should look like, and in chasing it, we lose touch with our own inner compass. We trade authenticity for approval, and in doing so, silence the very voice that was meant to guide us. But here's the secret Hill and every great achiever understood: the mind is the master key. Every thought you think, every belief you hold, and every choice you make is shaping your destiny. You are either walking toward your authentic self or away from it. The choice is always yours. The responsibility is yours. And most importantly, the power is yours. I once met a man who seemed to have everything: wealth, recognition, influence. Yet behind the polished smile was emptiness. He confessed to me one evening, "I feel like I'm living someone else's life." That confession was the beginning of his transformation. He began to question the beliefs he had accepted without thought, the dreams that weren't truly his, and the fears that had dictated his choices. Over time, he uncovered the person he was born to be: passionate, free, and full of purpose. That same awakening awaits you. But first, you must dare to believe that you are worthy of it. Your authentic self begins with a powerful truth: you were born with worth. You are valuable not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Yet from childhood, society begins to layer you with doubts. Teachers, friends, even loving parents unintentionally project their fears onto you. Be realistic, they say. Don't dream too big. And so, the masterpiece within you becomes covered by dust. It's time to wipe that dust away. The first step to becoming your true self is to see yourself as the Creator sees you: whole, capable, and magnificently designed. You are not missing anything. Everything you need to fulfill your purpose is already inside you. Think of Michelangelo, who once said that every block of stone has a statue inside it, and the sculptor's job is to set it free. That's exactly what this journey is about: removing everything that is not truly you. The fears, the doubts, the borrowed opinions. As you chip away at those layers, the masterpiece within begins to emerge. Your authentic self possesses 3 powerful qualities. First, it operates from love, not fear. Every thought, every decision made in love brings you closer to your purpose. Fear shrinks your vision, love expands it. Second, your authentic self embraces uniqueness without apology. It doesn't try to imitate others or conform to expectations. It celebrates what makes you different because your differences are what make you valuable. Third, your authentic self lives in integrity. What it believes, it says. What it says, it does. When your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned, you become unstoppable. You attract people and opportunities that mirror your truth. The process of discovering this self isn't easy. It requires courage, the kind of courage Hill called definiteness of purpose. You must be willing to look within and ask the hard questions. Am I living according to my truth, or someone else's expectations? What fears are holding me back from the life I desire? What would my life look like if I fully believed in my own worth? The answers to these questions hold the key to your transformation. The journey to the person you were born to be doesn't happen overnight. It is a path of awakening, of peeling back illusions and remembering who you truly are. But once you take that first step, something extraordinary happens. The universe begins to move in your favor. Doors open. Ideas flow. People who can help you appear. And it all begins with a decision. The decision to open your envelope and claim the destiny that has always been yours. So tonight, when the world grows quiet, and you feel that whisper rise again from deep within, don't ignore it. That whisper is your authentic self calling you home. Are you ready to answer? Would you like me to continue writing part 2, The Awakening of Purpose? 1,000 words, in the same style and tone next? Title: The Journey to the Person You Were Born to Be, Part 2, inspired by the wisdom of Napoleon Hill. Have you ever felt a quiet restlessness deep inside, a gentle tug, as if something within you were trying to get your attention? It might happen when you're alone in your car, when you wake up in the middle of the night, or when you catch yourself staring out a window, wondering if this life you're living is really you. That soft voice, that subtle feeling, isn't random. It's your inner self calling you home, the voice of truth that's been speaking all along, waiting for you to listen. Part 2, The Call of the Inner Voice. Napoleon Hill taught that every great transformation begins within the mind. Before any man or woman can achieve success in the world, they must first master the kingdom within. And the key to that kingdom lies in one sacred practice: listening to your inner voice. But before you can hear it clearly, you must first clear away the noise. The noise of doubt. The noise of fear. The noise of other people's opinions echoing in your head. These voices have been shaping your choices for years, maybe even decades. You've been told what success should look like, how happiness should feel, what kind of person you should be. But should is the language of someone else's dream. Your authentic self speaks a different language, the language of truth. To hear it, you must dare to ask yourself questions that most people avoid. Questions like, which of my beliefs are truly mine, and which were given to me by others? Which goals come from my soul, and which were handed to me by society? Which of my actions reflect who I really am, and which are simply performances to win approval? These questions are uncomfortable. They force you to face the ways you've been pretending, conforming, and settling. But in that discomfort lies the beginning of your freedom. Each honest answer releases you from a chain you didn't even know you were carrying. Each moment of truth brings you closer to the powerful, authentic being you were born to be. Hill often said, "Self-analysis is the greatest of all arts known to man." Because only through self-analysis can you discover who you truly are and what you truly desire. When you dare to look beneath the surface of your life, you begin to see the patterns, the borrowed dreams, the inherited fears, the silent betrayals of your authentic self. But the moment you see them, they lose their power. The real you has been waiting patiently beneath all that conditioning. Like a masterpiece covered in layers of dust, your true self is ready to shine once again. And to uncover it, you must remember this simple truth: you were created with purpose. You were not placed on this earth to be a copy of someone else. You were born with gifts, talents, and passions that are uniquely yours. The Creator designed you for a reason. You already have everything you need to fulfill that purpose. You don't need permission from anyone else. You don't need to earn your worth. You simply need to rediscover it. But how do you begin to hear that inner voice again? Start by making space for silence. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become rare, even frightening. But silence is the sacred soil where truth grows. Find moments in your day where you can step away from distractions. Turn off your phone. Sit quietly. Breathe. Listen. Your inner voice won't shout at you. It speaks in whispers, in intuition, in gut feelings, in quiet knowing. It speaks through your passions, your natural talents, your dreams, and even your discomfort. When something feels wrong deep inside, that's your inner voice warning you that you've stepped off your path. When something feels powerfully right, that's your authentic self saying, "This is it. Keep going." Hill once wrote that your subconscious mind is a powerful transmitter. It sends and receives thoughts, feelings, and guidance, but it can only do so when you tune into its frequency. Most people never take the time to listen. They fill every silence with noise, every pause with distraction, and then wonder why they feel lost. But the person you were born to be doesn't speak through noise. They speak through stillness. I remember a young woman who once came to a seminar, feeling completely lost in her life. She had followed all the rules, gone to college, found a stable job, made her parents proud, yet she felt a deep emptiness inside. "I don't know who I am anymore," she confessed. So, I told her what I'll tell you now: stop seeking answers outside yourself. Start listening within. For weeks, she spent just 15 minutes each morning sitting quietly, asking her inner self a simple question: what do you want me to know today? At first, nothing happened. Then one morning, she felt a sudden wave of clarity, a realization that her true passion was helping others heal through art. That quiet whisper became her compass. Today, she runs a thriving business using art therapy to change lives. The same guidance is waiting for you. Your authentic self has 3 defining traits that always lead you toward your higher purpose. First, it operates from love, not fear. Every thought grounded in love expands your possibilities. Every thought born of fear limits them. When you choose love, love for yourself, for others, for life, fear dissolves. Second, it embraces uniqueness. Your true self doesn't compete or compare. It doesn't imitate others or apologize for being different. It knows that your differences are your greatest contribution. Third, your authentic self lives in integrity. It says what it means and means what it says. When your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned, you create an energy so magnetic that the right people, opportunities, and circumstances naturally find you. Living this way requires courage, but it also unlocks power. You become the kind of person who attracts success effortlessly because you're no longer chasing it, you're embodying it. Every day you live in truth, your light grows stronger. Every time you honor your intuition, your confidence deepens. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim another piece of your power. Remember, the person you were born to be has never left you. They've been there all along, waiting for you to listen, to believe, to act. Tonight, when the world quiets and you find that still moment within, ask yourself this: what is my inner voice trying to tell me? Then be silent, and listen, truly listen. For the voice that speaks within you is not small. It is the voice of your destiny. Would you like me to continue with part 3? The power of belief. 1,000 words, in the same story-driven Napoleon Hill style? Title: The Journey to the Person You Were Born to Be, Part 3, inspired by the timeless philosophy of Napoleon Hill. Engaging hook. Have you ever felt that faint but undeniable voice deep within? The one that whispers, "You are meant for more." It doesn't shout or demand attention. It speaks softly, patiently, waiting for you to pause long enough to hear it. Most people ignore it, drowning it out with the noise of daily life, social media, television, other people's opinions. But those who choose to listen discover something extraordinary: that this quiet inner voice is not just imagination. It is the Creator's direct guidance, a personal compass leading you toward the person you were truly born to be. Part 3. The Power of Listening and Self-Acceptance. Napoleon Hill once said, "The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does." But before a person can give more to the world, they must first learn to listen more deeply to the world within. Every great achievement, every lasting transformation, begins not with action, but with awareness. Within the depths of your being resides a source of wisdom far greater than anything the outside world can teach you. This inner voice, your intuition, your higher self, your spiritual compass, already knows the direction of your true destiny. It speaks through your instincts, your dreams, and those sudden flashes of understanding that seem to come from nowhere. It nudges you toward what feels right and warns you away from what feels wrong. But the problem is, most people can't hear it. Their lives are too crowded with noise, the opinions of others, the constant rush of distraction, the endless need for validation. They've been conditioned to look outside themselves for every answer. "What should I do?" they ask others. "Who should I be?" they wonder, as if someone else could possibly know. Hill taught that no one can tell you who you are meant to become, that power lies within your own consciousness. To hear your authentic inner voice, you must create silence. You must carve out moments in your day where no one else's voice can reach you. It might be early in the morning before the world awakens, or late at night when the noise fades away. In those still moments, you will find the clarity you've been seeking. In silence, something miraculous happens. You begin to notice your true thoughts, not the programmed responses of society, but the raw truth of your soul. You begin to sense what feels alive within you and what drains your spirit. You begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. The more you listen, the clearer the voice becomes. At first, it may seem faint, uncertain. But over time, it grows strong and sure. It begins to guide you, not through logic or fear, but through a quiet knowing that feels undeniably right. Listening to your inner voice, however, is only half of the journey. The next step is self-acceptance, perhaps one of the hardest lessons of all. You see, self-acceptance is not about arrogance or ego. It is about embracing all of yourself, your light and your shadow, your successes and your mistakes. It is understanding that you are not a finished product, but a masterpiece in progress. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You are worthy because you exist. For too long, society has convinced people that they must fix themselves before they can love themselves. They believe that being hard on themselves is the only way to grow. But if criticism and self-rejection truly worked, everyone would already be living their dream life. The truth is, constant self-judgment drains the very energy you need for transformation. When you accept yourself fully, you release that internal battle. You stop fighting who you are and start working with yourself instead of against yourself. The energy that once fueled guilt and shame becomes creative power. You begin to express, create, and live from a place of authenticity. Hill believed that a person's greatest power comes from harmony between their conscious and subconscious mind, between what they think and what they feel about themselves. Self-acceptance creates that harmony. It unites your mind and heart, allowing your thoughts to align with your deeper truth. The person who accepts themselves completely no longer needs to chase approval. They no longer mold themselves to fit other people's expectations. They become magnetic, because nothing is more attractive than authenticity. This doesn't mean you stop striving to grow. On the contrary, true self-acceptance is the soil from which genuine growth blossoms. When you stop wasting energy pretending to be someone else, you free yourself to become the best version of you. The practice of self-acceptance begins with awareness. Pay attention to the moments you criticize yourself. Notice the voice in your head that says, "I'm not good enough, I always fail," or "I'll never change." When you hear it, don't argue with it or suppress it, simply observe it. Then, speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Show compassion instead of condemnation. You are not broken. You are becoming. And as you learn to accept yourself, something even more powerful awakens, your authentic expression. This is the fourth principle on the path to becoming who you were born to be. Authentic expression is not about performance. It's about truth. It's about allowing the world to see the real you, your voice, your ideas, your creativity, your essence. For many people, this is terrifying. From childhood, we've been taught to fit in, to please others, to hide the parts of ourselves that seem too different. We've learned to wear masks to survive. But the longer you wear those masks, the heavier they become. Your authentic expression doesn't need to be invented, it needs to be uncovered. It's been there since birth, waiting for your permission to shine. It shows up in how you speak, how you create, how you connect, and how you love. When you express yourself authentically, something beautiful happens. Life begins to respond. You attract people and opportunities that match your truth. You stop chasing and start attracting. Of course, it takes courage to express yourself openly. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you. But remember, the people who reject your authenticity were never meant for your journey. Your light will only blind those who refuse to open their eyes. Hill often reminded his readers that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. The same is true of rejection. When you express yourself and someone turns away, that rejection simply clears the space for those who will embrace the real you. So start small. Share one true opinion. Wear what makes you feel alive. Take a risk on something that excites your soul. Each small act of authenticity strengthens your confidence and moves you closer to your purpose. You were not born to live someone else's story. You were born to write your own. And that story begins the moment you decide to accept yourself fully and express yourself freely. Because the world doesn't need another imitation. It needs you, the real, unfiltered, magnificent you. Would you like me to continue with part 4? The art of conscious choice making. 1,000 words, in the same inspirational Napoleon Hill storytelling style? Part 4. The power of the inner voice hook. There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise of the world grows so loud that the whisper of the soul can barely be heard. It happened to Michael one restless night, staring at the ceiling in a silent room, wondering why success felt empty. He had achieved much, but something within him kept saying, "You are not where you are meant to be." That single whisper started the journey that would change everything. Michael had read dozens of self-help books, followed countless strategies, and worked harder than anyone he knew. Yet the satisfaction he expected never arrived. It was as if he had been climbing a mountain that did not belong to him. One evening, exhausted from the noise of endless advice, he turned off his phone, closed his laptop, and sat in silence. For the first time in years, he listened, not to others, but to himself. At first, the silence felt uncomfortable. His mind replayed the usual doubts and fears. But slowly, beneath that noise, he began to sense something different. A calm voice within him started to speak. It did not shout or demand attention. It simply whispered, guiding him toward truth. That was the moment Michael discovered his inner voice, the compass of every great dreamer, the same voice Napoleon Hill described as infinite intelligence, guiding those who dare to listen. The voice did not give him detailed instructions or promises of quick success. It gave him clarity. It reminded him of what once made him feel alive, the urge to create, to teach, to inspire others. As he sat in stillness, he realized how far he had drifted from his true purpose by following others' definitions of success. The wisdom within him had always been there, but the world had taught him to ignore it. That night marked the beginning of Michael's transformation. He made a decision to trust the quiet whisper within him more than the loud opinions outside him. Each morning, before he began his work, he would spend 10 minutes in silence. Sometimes he wrote whatever thoughts came. Other times, he simply listened. The more he practiced this, the stronger his inner voice became. It guided him to make decisions that felt right, even when they scared him. He left a job that drained his spirit and started building something that felt meaningful. People thought he was taking a risk, but to him, it was the safest thing he could do, because it was aligned with his truth. His confidence grew, not because others approved, but because he began approving of himself. Napoleon Hill once wrote that no one achieves lasting success without first mastering themselves. Michael finally understood that mastery begins with self-acceptance. He stopped fighting his flaws and started learning from them. He realized that self-criticism had only trapped him in fear, while self-compassion opened the door to progress. Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," he began asking, "What can I learn from this?" That single shift transformed his life. As weeks turned into months, Michael noticed something remarkable. The energy he once spent doubting himself now flowed into creativity and action. The strength he used to waste comparing himself to others became the fuel for expressing his own ideas. For the first time, he felt in harmony with life itself. His work improved. His relationships deepened. His sense of peace grew stronger. But the path of authentic living demanded more than peace. It demanded courage. One of the hardest lessons Michael learned was to express himself honestly, even when it made others uncomfortable. He remembered how often he had hidden his opinions to please people or to avoid rejection. But authentic expression, he realized, is the foundation of true confidence. So he began speaking his truth with respect but without apology. The result was powerful. Some people drifted away, but those who stayed were drawn closer than ever. His authenticity became a magnet, attracting the right people and opportunities into his life. Through this process, he learned another key principle: conscious choice-making. Every decision, no matter how small, either moved him closer to his authentic self or pulled him away. Before committing to anything, he asked himself, "Does this feel right in my soul?" That single question became his daily guide. When choices arose out of fear, he paused. When they aligned with love, he acted boldly. This practice gave him what Napoleon Hill called definiteness of purpose, the power to move forward with confidence and direction. One day, while journaling, Michael wrote, "I am the author of my life." The moment he wrote those words, he felt their truth. He realized he could no longer blame others for his unhappiness. Every choice, every action, every hesitation had shaped the life he was living. And from that awareness came freedom. The freedom to choose differently. As his awareness deepened, so did his relationships. He noticed how some connections uplifted him, while others demanded he remain small. Authentic relationships, he discovered, are built not on perfection, but on truth. He began surrounding himself with people who celebrated his growth rather than feared it. He let go of those who only accepted a version of him that wasn't real. At first, this was painful, but it led to deeper peace and more meaningful connections. Through all these lessons, Michael discovered his true purpose. It wasn't hidden in some faraway dream. It was inside him all along. His purpose was to grow, to share, to inspire others to listen to their own inner voice. He began speaking at small community events, telling his story. People resonated deeply with his message. The more he shared, the clearer his mission became. One evening, standing before a small audience, he said, "Everything changed when I stopped seeking approval and started listening to the quiet wisdom within me. That voice never steers you wrong. It may whisper, but it always knows the way." The crowd was silent, then began to applaud. Many came to him afterward, saying they felt as if he had spoken directly to their hearts. That night, Michael understood something profound. The inner voice he had learned to trust was not unique to him. It was the same voice that exists in everyone. The same voice that guided Edison to invent, Carnegie to build, and Hill to write. It was the voice of truth within every human being, waiting patiently to be heard. If you quiet your mind and listen, that same wisdom will guide you too. You do not need permission to become who you were meant to be. You need only to listen, to trust, and to act. Because once you align your choices with your authentic self, life begins to move with you rather than against you. And in that alignment, you find not just success, but peace. Call to action. If this story spoke to you, remember to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. Your inner voice is waiting. Listen, trust, and begin your journey toward the person you were truly born to be. Would you like me to continue and write part 5 next in the same style and tone, another 1,000 words? Part 5. The Secret of Conscious Choice. Hook. Every life turns on a single decision. Sometimes it is a small choice, almost invisible, that changes everything. For James, that choice came on a rainy Thursday morning when he looked in the mirror and realized he no longer recognized the man staring back at him. He had built a life that looked successful from the outside. A stable job, a nice car, a house that impressed the neighbors. But inside, something was missing. He woke up each day feeling heavy, as if his life was being written by someone else's hand. He could not remember when he had last felt alive. The spark that once drove him had dimmed, replaced by routine and obligation. That morning, as he buttoned his shirt and prepared for another day that looked just like the last, he whispered to himself, "I did not choose this. Life chose me." That thought shook him deeply. James went to work as usual, but his mind stayed on that question. Who had been making his choices? Was it fear? Habit? The opinions of others? He remembered something his grandfather used to say. "Son, the moment you stop choosing your own path, you start living someone else's dream." That memory stirred something inside him. That night, instead of turning on the television, James sat quietly and began to write. He listed every major decision he had made in the past 10 years. The job he took because it was safe. The relationship he stayed in because it was convenient. The opportunities he ignored because they seemed risky. As he looked at the list, he realized most of his choices had been made from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of change. He felt a mix of sadness and awakening. That night he made a new promise to himself. From that moment on, he would choose consciously. Napoleon Hill once wrote that success is the result of definite decisions made with faith, not fear. James decided to test this truth. The next day, before making any decision, he paused and asked himself one question. Am I choosing this from love or from fear? It was such a simple question, yet it revealed everything. He noticed how often he said yes when he meant no, how often he agreed just to avoid conflict, how often he silenced his truth to please others. Slowly, he began to change. One morning, his manager asked him to take on a new project that required long hours and little creativity. It was the kind of task he had accepted 100 times before out of obligation. But this time, he paused. His heart said no. His fear said yes. For the first time, he chose the voice of truth. He respectfully declined the project and suggested something different that aligned with his strengths. To his surprise, his boss appreciated the honesty and assigned him to a more fitting role. That one conscious choice began to reshape his career. Each day, James practiced the art of awareness. Before saying yes, before committing to anything, he stopped and checked within. The process was not always easy. Sometimes it meant disappointing others. Sometimes it meant facing uncertainty. But each time he honored his truth, he felt stronger, more confident, more alive. Napoleon Hill believed that every person is the master of their fate because every person has the power to think and choose. James began to see that his life was not happening to him but through him. Every choice was a seed, and his daily actions were the soil in which those seeds grew. If he planted seeds of fear, he reaped frustration. When he planted seeds of love and courage, he reaped peace and success. Months passed, and James noticed his life changing in subtle ways. His mornings felt lighter. His conversations grew deeper. His decisions became clearer. He no longer needed to ask everyone for advice because he had learned to trust his inner compass. He had discovered that conscious choice was not just about big life decisions, but also the small ones. What to focus on each day. How to speak to himself. Whether to react in anger or respond with patience. These small daily choices shaped his entire experience. One evening, he met an old friend for coffee. The friend, still trapped in routine, asked, "How did you change your life?" James smiled and said, "I started listening before deciding. I stopped letting fear choose for me." His friend looked puzzled, so James explained, "Every time I made a decision from fear, I lost a piece of myself. Every time I chose from love, I gained it back. That is the real secret of success." His words reminded him of another idea from Napoleon Hill. Hill taught that indecision is the enemy of progress, but conscious decision, made with faith and purpose, unlocks personal power. James began to feel that power growing inside him. The more he trusted his choices, the more opportunities appeared. It was as if life itself respected his clarity. Then came a test. He was offered a promotion at work. It came with more money but less freedom. The old James would have accepted immediately. But this time, he paused. He imagined what each path would feel like. One felt heavy, the other light. He chose the lighter one, the one aligned with his true purpose. People around him thought he was crazy to decline the offer, but deep inside, he knew he had made the right choice. A few months later, he received a new opportunity that matched his passion perfectly. It confirmed what he already knew: when you make choices from truth, life rewards your courage. Through this journey, James learned that conscious choice-making is the heart of authentic living. It is not about perfection, but awareness. It is not about control, but alignment. When you pause long enough to listen to your heart before you act, you begin to live deliberately instead of by default. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. As he looked back, James realized that the power of choice was the greatest gift he possessed. Every time he faced a decision, he now saw it as an invitation to become the person he was born to be. He had found freedom not by changing the world around him, but by changing the way he chose within it. That rainy morning that once began in confusion had turned into a life of clarity. And the voice that whispered in doubt had grown into a confident inner guide. He understood now that destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. Call to action. If this story spoke to your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring lessons. Comment below what choice you are ready to make today. Remember, the life you desire is only one conscious decision away. Would you like me to continue and write part 6, the final part, in the same story tone and Napoleon Hill style next? Part 6. The Power of Purposeful Living. Hook. There comes a moment in every person's life when they ask the question that echoes through their soul. Why am I here? For most, the answer hides behind years of routine, expectations, and fear. But for those who dare to search, purpose becomes the fire that lights every corner of their existence. For Michael, that question came not in success, but in silence. After 20 years of chasing promotions, possessions, and applause, he found himself sitting alone in his quiet living room, surrounded by everything he once thought he wanted. Yet he felt empty. His heart whispered a truth he could no longer ignore. You have been living everyone's dream but your own. That night, something inside him awakened. He realized he had built a life that looked good but felt hollow. So, he made a decision. He would no longer live by habit. He would live by purpose. Michael remembered reading Napoleon Hill's words long ago. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. At the time, he thought it was about work ethic. Now he saw it was about purpose. Hill's wisdom was clear. True success does not come from chasing wealth or approval. It comes from serving a purpose greater than yourself. The next morning, Michael took a long walk through the park. For the first time in years, he left his phone at home. As he listened to the wind move through the trees, a strange peace filled him. Without the noise of the world, he could finally hear the quiet voice within. It did not shout or demand. It simply whispered, "You are meant to inspire others. Start where you are." At first, he resisted. Who am I to inspire anyone? He thought. But the voice grew stronger with each day. He began volunteering at a youth center, helping young people learn confidence and direction. The first time he stood in front of them to speak, his voice trembled. But when he saw their eyes light up, he felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. That was the day he found his purpose. Purpose is not always something you discover overnight. It grows quietly inside you like a seed waiting for the right season. It reveals itself when you do what feels natural, joyful, and meaningful. Napoleon Hill often said that every person is endowed with unique gifts meant to serve humanity in some way. Michael realized that his purpose was not to impress others but to impact them. He began aligning his daily choices with his calling. He changed the way he worked, the people he surrounded himself with, even how he spent his free time. Every decision became a question of purpose. Does this move me closer to my true path or away from it? Slowly, his life began to transform. He stopped chasing titles and started chasing meaning. His work became more creative and fulfilling. People began to notice a new light in him. One of his colleagues said, "You look happier these days. What changed?" Michael smiled and said, "I stopped living for money and started living for meaning." Living with purpose gave his days structure, but more importantly, it gave his life soul. When he faced challenges, he no longer felt defeated because he knew they were shaping him for his greater mission. Purpose turned obstacles into teachers and failures into fuel. One evening, while reflecting on his journey, Michael realized something powerful. He had not discovered his purpose by searching outside himself. He had uncovered it by peeling away everything false until only truth remained. His purpose had always been there, waiting for him to listen. This is the truth Napoleon Hill spoke of again and again. Every person is born with a definite purpose, a reason for being. It is not hidden in the stars or written by chance. It is written within you, in your passions, your gifts, your curiosities, and even your pain. Hill taught that once you find this purpose and align your thoughts and actions with it, a strange and wonderful thing happens. The universe begins to cooperate with you. People, opportunities, and resources appear as if drawn by an unseen hand. It is not luck. It is the law of harmony between thought and purpose. Michael began teaching others what he had learned. He told them, "Purpose is not about doing something great one day. It is about doing something meaningful every day." He encouraged people to start small, to follow the spark that excites them, and to trust where it leads. Over time, he built a community of people driven by passion and authenticity. They supported one another, celebrated progress, and lived with intention. Together they proved that a life built on purpose has power beyond imagination. One afternoon, as Michael watched the sunset paint the sky, he smiled. The emptiness he once felt was gone. In its place was peace, gratitude, and joy. He realized he had become the man he was born to be. Not because of what he achieved, but because of what he gave. And so, dear listener, ask yourself the question that started it all. Why am I here? Your answer may not come in a flash of light. It may come in gentle whispers, in quiet moments, in the pull of something you love. Listen closely, for within that whisper lies your destiny. When you live with purpose, you stop chasing life and start creating it. You no longer drift with the current of circumstance. You steer your own ship with clarity, courage, and faith. That is how you become the person you were born to be. Call to action. If this story inspired you, take one small step today toward your purpose. Write down what makes you feel alive. Follow that feeling wherever it leads. And remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that awaken the greatness within you. Leave a comment below and tell us, what purpose are you ready to live for?